Welcome to the show. I'm Doug Johnson, and this is The Business of Life. Each show, we try and highlight a local personality who has been very successful in life and who is willing to share some of their success strategies with our audience. Today's guest is Matt Fish, owner, chef, entrepreneur of Melt Bar and Grilled. Matt, it's great to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here. I appreciate it. I don't know if very successful, but successful enough. I meet and beat all my expectations in my business life so far.
Well, let me go over a couple of those because you're being very modest. Here are just some, for our audience, some of your accomplishments. The 2012 Lakewood Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year. Small Business Association's 2015 Ohio Small Business Person of the Year. 2017 Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. 2017 EY Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. You've appeared on TV on Man vs. Food, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and also have made it on Esquire magazine's list of the best sandwiches in America. Modest as you are, Matt, tell us what you actually do and how you got there. What's your backstory?
Oh, the backstory is very long. How much time do you have?
Hours.
Well, I'm a Cleveland native, grew up in Cleveland, born and bred, love the town. Always felt like I wanted to do something for my city, for myself. Went to high school like everybody else does, and I got into college. I started going to Tri-C. And I was playing music at the time, which I think we can get into later, but I had no direction in life at that point. I'm 18, 19 years old. So I go to Tri-C, taking general classes. I'm like, these will transfer somewhere at some point. And so I was, feeling life out at the time. And I stumbled into a restaurant job in Parma, Ohio, where I grew up. And it was a little pizza shop, an Italian restaurant called Rocky's Pizza. And it was owned by an Italian family. They were first generation. And I fell in love with the cuisine, and I fell in love with cooking. I loved cooking at home with my parents and my mother. I come from a food background. My family owned a farm in North Ridgeville. We had 250 acres of sweet corn, soybean, cows, chickens, pigs. I mean, I did that life until I was 18 years old, and we sold the farm. So I had that background. And I was very entrepreneurial and artistic, minded. So when I stumbled into a restaurant, everything seemed to click at the same time. So I really fell in love with the industry. So I felt, hey, this is what I not only want to do with the rest of my life, but I think I can do this. So I figured out that Tri-C has a culinary program. It's a hospitality management department that they actually had, which I was not aware of at the time. So I enrolled in that, took the 101 class. Fell in love with it, never looked back. I got my associate's degree through Tri-C, and then I went out into the restaurant industry in Greater Cleveland and really cut my teeth for about 15 years working for other people, running kitchens, creating menus, really learning the nuts and the bolts of the restaurant industry. And then again, I was very entrepreneurially driven. I've always been that kind of guy. I was the guy that had lemonade stands when I was a kid, or garage sales. If I wanted to buy something, my parents did not believe in allowances. Like if you did chores around the house, that was because you had to, not because it was your opportunity to earn money. So I did, I had bucks from paper routes and stuff, but long story short, I decided like the restaurant industry is what I want to do. I want to open my own restaurant. So eventually 2006 came around, and I felt like I had accomplished everything else in my life that I really wanted to, being music, artistic-y stuff, graduated college, had worked for other people for so long. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the plunge. Found a small little bar in Lakewood, Ohio, on Detroit Avenue in Warren. It used to be called the Bud's White Door Saloon, and it was a family-owned bar and had a kitchen in it since the 40s. And it was a very popular spot in Lakewood for many, many, many years. And then the original family ended up selling it, and then it kind of changed hands over 6 years. About 6 different people had owned it in about 6 years. So it had been run down, beaten up. I stumbled into it, found out it was for sale, looked at it, and it was a mess. But it had all the bones that I needed. It had a bar, It had a roof over its head. It had a kitchen, and it had what ended up being really good landlords. So I made the owners an offer. They accepted. I bought it. I immediately closed it the next day. We threw brown paper up on the windows. Myself and 3 of my friends literally renovated the space ourselves for 7 months with a lot of sweat equity and some bucks that I had in the bank. And we grand opened Melt Bar and Grilled in 2006, September 2006.
So, Matt, tell us about Melt Bar and Grill, because you have taken what people say is an ordinary sandwich, a common sandwich, and you've really turned that into a gastronomical adventure, if that's even a term. So
it is now.
talk
We just
about
made
that.
it up.
Okay.
We take the humble grilled cheese sandwich, which was always one of my favorite foods on earth, from a kid through my college years into my adult years. When I was working in other restaurants around Cleveland, if anybody's in the restaurant industry, they understand that the longer you work in a restaurant, no matter how good the food is, you end up getting tired of it because you see it all the time, you make it all the time. Restaurants are very repetition. You know, you're making the same food, the same recipes day in and day out. So eventually you're gonna get sick of that food. So what restaurant people end up doing is their brains start twisting things around. They make different creations out of the food that's available in the restaurant. So I always found myself taking really good bread, really good cheese, and a couple different ingredients. I'd make these big grilled cheese sandwiches every night. I'd take them home. I'd watch late night television. I'd go to bed. I'd get back up the next day and go do it over again. So eventually, other people in the restaurant start seeing me make these grilled cheese sandwiches, and they're like, "Hey, that looks really good. Why don't you make me one? Make me one." So instead of making like some really nice food that we have on the menu for the staff, I'm making these silly grilled cheese sandwiches for people and with fries, and they're taking it home and they're doing the same thing I was doing. So I started thinking about that when I was developing the concept behind my first restaurant. And I said, you know what, maybe this grilled cheese thing will work. Maybe I can make a go at it. So the original thought behind Melt Bar and Grilled was it was going to be a beer bar. Craft beer, this is going back now 15 years ago almost. Melt is 13 years old now, but my concept, my thoughts even go back farther than that, even 15 years ago. So craft beer was nothing in not only greater Cleveland and Ohio, it was not even a blip on the radar in the United States at that time. There are some pockets on the West Coast, pockets on the East Coast, Michigan, New York, some in Ohio, but really it was, there was few and far between craft beer bars, breweries. The big 3 players in the world were owned the beer industry. So, but I was a craft beer guy. I loved craft beer. So I was going to focus my restaurant bar on craft beer. So I was going to open up a beer bar that just happened to have this cool little menu of gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches on the side, figuring, hey, if I serve 50 sandwiches a day and get some people in there to drink some beers, I can pay my bills, I can keep this thing going, I'll be happy for the rest of my life, So thinking I was going to open up a craft beer bar that just happened to serve this silly grilled cheese menu, literally the day we opened, September 22nd, 2006, we became a gourmet grilled cheese restaurant that just happens to have a pretty amazing craft beer list, because nobody had ever seen gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches before. We literally, I keep saying the word literally, but we invented that concept. It didn't exist. I mean, pizza, pasta, subs, wings, tacos, all this kind of stuff were these restaurants, but nobody was even thinking that grilled cheese was even an option.
Well, Matt, tell us about some of the sandwiches. My personal favorite is the Monte Cristo,
Which is a
grilled cheese.
And actually the Monte Cristo is a very traditional sandwich. It's normally done with French toast. It's French toast, ham, turkey, some kind of cheese component. There's normally powdered sugar on there. It's kind of a brunch breakfast type sandwich. And it was one of my favorite sandwiches throughout my restaurant career and just eating in general. So wanted to put that on the menu, but we wanted to put a twist on it, obviously. The sandwiches they go from very basic, and I hate to use the word basic when I talk about Melt because it's not very basic, but the kindergarten, which is our tried and true, our staple, that is your classic grilled cheese sandwich. We use artisan bread that is baked for us 7 days a week from a local bakery. We use the best cheese, the best ingredients we can possible. So the kindergarten is your basic bread and cheese, 2 slices of nice thick cut bread, 4 ounces of whatever type of cheese you want. You get your choice between hand-cut fries or kettle chips. To the extreme, I mean, we have entire entrees on a sandwich.
And these sandwiches are just humongous.
They're big and they're beautiful
and they're delicious.
Thank you. Well, there are tons of. I mean, my goal was to create a restaurant that focused on flavor and focused on texture. I like overkill. My wife will tell you that when I cook at home, I put every single thing in the pantry and the refrigerator into that meal. Where she is very methodical and follows recipes and does these 3 ingredients only, and believes. My wife certainly subscribes to if there's more than 5 ingredients in something, it's wrong. Where I subscribe to it is like I start with 5 ingredients and can I fit 15 to 20 ingredients into this thing? So our sandwiches are big, they're bold, they're beautiful. The flavor content is fantastic. If I say it's roasted garlic in there, you're going to taste the roasted garlic. If we say it's hot and spicy, it's going to be hot and spicy. If it's smooth and creamy, it's smooth and creamy. The easiest way to describe our menu and our food is we take plated entrees that you're typically used to seeing in restaurant settings. There's a potato, there's a vegetable, there's a protein, there's a starch, there's a salad, there's bread on the side, there's a sauce to dip everything in. We put all that into a sandwich. Somehow, some way, we're going to fit complete entrees into a sandwich. We have a sandwich on our menu, which is a great example. It's called the Winner Chicken Dinner, and it is basically a fried chicken dinner on a sandwich. So you've got your 2 slices of our bread. We've got sharp cheddar cheese. We have a fried chicken breast. We have scalloped potatoes. We have garlic greens. There's corn puree on there. So all the flavors that you would typically are used to seeing on a Sunday dinner at Mom's house, you bite into that sandwich and you're like, I'm at my mom's house. This is great, And we like the blue plate special type stuff. We like the hometowny comfort food. So if your mom made it as a Sunday dinner at some point when you're growing up as a kid, no matter what nationality you were, we have it at Melt.
The variety is just unbelievable, and you're right. I mean, from the sandwiches that I've had, it's a whole meal on that sandwich, and they're great.
Well, thank you. And there's a lot of choices.
And really creative. Did you come up with most of these sandwiches?
The concept is mine. The restaurant, obviously, I'm the owner and founder. Up until about 2012, 2013, I was the only really culinary person involved with creating the menu. So there's a good amount of my original recipes and items still on the menu. The tried and true, the Melt Classics is what we call them, are sandwiches that have been running on our menu since 2006 and probably will never go away and probably never change, hopefully, because our guests love them. But I did develop a kind of a culinary team a couple years ago, or myself, and there's a couple like-minded chefs that work for us in the company in different locations, whether it's in a store, at our corporate office. We get together and we develop a lot of the recipes together and the ideas and the concepts. We'll sit around and brainstorm, and then we'll go into the R&D kitchen and work some recipes out and figure it out. It normally takes us, some things take us 2 days to figure out. Some things take us 2 months to figure out, but we're really keen on quality. Consistency is big for us, and just producing value for the dollar. We know that it's 2019, and everybody's looking for value. Everybody's looking for what separates you from everybody else. So we've always provided really high food quality, but our price points are a lot below where like a fine dining restaurant would be.
Well, if you ever need a taster, I'm in.
You're signed up, my friend.
You mentioned creativity, and you are a very creative person. I've known you for a long time. One of the things that you have done is to put your menus on record jacket covers, which leads me to a discussion about your music background. Tell us about that.
That was my first passion and my first love in life was music. I fell in love with rock and roll at a very young age. My parents were into music, but they're not huge musician type people, but my dad always had the oldies station on, or my dad was a big Beatles and Stones guy. So there was always music in our house. For no other reason, it just filled up space. It filled up void. Driving to wherever we drove to, there was always music on. So it just really resonated with me. So at a young age, I started to really venture out and try to discover as much music as I could. Raiding my parents' record collection, raiding neighbors, older kids than me, records collections. Believe it or not, the Cuyahoga Community Public Library has a lot to for me to thank and blame for my love for music, because there was a young adult section at the public library near our home where we grew up, and my mother would take me and my brother to the public library every week to pick up a book. And the deal I made with my mom is that if I get a book, I could get a record. So I would pick my book out first, and then I would go right to the young adult section, and I'd rifle through the records, and I would find names that I recognized or just covers that looked really cool to me as a kid, and I would take that record home and I would put it on, and I would just play it backwards and forwards and forwards and backwards and just digest it all. I remember all those records. Do I remember one of those books I read? Heck no. But these were like, this is Black Sabbath records, AC/DC records, Alice Cooper records, Kiss records, like the big players of the 70s. Why are these records available to young, influential minds at the Cleveland Public, or the Cuyahoga County Public Library? I don't know, but thank you at home, because, they did me a favor. So anyways, long story short, I got into playing music, and I just felt like drumming was my thing. So I convinced my parents somehow, some way for me to buy my own drum set with my paper route money when I was, I think I was 13 years old when I started playing drums, and mostly self-taught, took a couple lessons early on, but I felt I could teach myself more by just listening to music and just trying to figure things out. So I've been playing drums since I was 13, and it's going quite back a couple years. And I started some bands when I was a kid in grade school, into high school, and I just never looked back. So I just fell in love with music. I fortunate enough to put out a couple records on some decent bigger record labels. Did a lot of touring. I saw the States probably more times than I care. I love getting in the back of a van and just going. We were gone for 3 or 4 months at a pop. We went to Europe three different times for tours. I've seen every state. The only state I've never been into is Alaska right now. So I'm looking forward to going to Alaska, because that's my 50th state that I've in.
So with your passion for music and your passion for grilled cheese sandwiches and good beer, how does that all work? How does that come together?
I have no idea, but it just works. Well, my attitude towards life and my attitude towards music was always fun first, but responsibility second. And even in the band, I was always the responsible one. I was always the guy that was booking the tours, calling the record companies, booking the shows, making sure that everybody was assembled at the end of the night to go play, or assembled every night because we were leaving, going sleeping someplace. So I tried to be the responsible one. Even in the bands, I was the very entrepreneurially driven person. I was driving the van or pushing the band forward, and it just gravitated. It just went into the life of the restaurant. Like my first goal in life was to be in a successful band and play music and try to make a go at that. I did it. I felt like I accomplished everything I could with that. And then my next goal in life was to open up my own restaurant, to hopefully have that be successful, go on as long as it could. And here we are. I'm still living that dream 13 years later. But the music part of me being a band, I just brought that over to the restaurant setting, because it was going to be a bar first, restaurant second. And yeah, that's kind of flipped around, but our attitude towards the way that we approach business, the way we approach food, the way we approach our staff, the way we approach our guests is coming from a very loose, fun, and interesting type of way. I only knew how to promote a rock band when I was in music. So I just took that philosophy when I went over to Melt and started opening my own restaurants. It's like, I'm going to promote this restaurant like a band. So every new sandwich that we release, we're going to create a poster for, like this band's going on tour or releasing a new record, or when we open up a new location, it's going to be this big grandiose thing that we're doing. So, Melt's always been kind of over the top with everything we've done, and some people love it. Hopefully the majority of people love it. Some people look at it as like, it's too much. It's too much. Sensory overload when you walk into the restaurants. But that's my personality.
Well, let's talk about your marketing campaigns. Obviously, you're a creative person. And I am just fascinated by the marketing campaign that you came up with about tattoos.
Yeah, that was what turned out to be a great idea, but I thought it was going to be one of the sillier ideas. First, opening a gourmet grilled cheese restaurant, checkbox silly, but then second, start a promotion in 2009 that says, hey, world, if anybody gets a Melt Bar and Grilled tattoo, if you get one of our logos tattooed on you, I will give you 25% off for life. And I can't take 100% credit for the idea. Some friends of mine are in a band out of San Diego called Rocket from the Crypt, and they were one of my favorite bands growing up as a kid. And then fortunately, we became friends with them in one of my bands, and we got to tour with them. And anytime I go to San Diego, I still see the guys, and they're still playing. But anyways, they had a promotion the same where they said, if anybody gets a Rocket from the Crypt tattoo, because they have a little rocket logo, then we'll let you into any show anywhere in the world for free. Well, they've honored that, and they have thousands and thousands of people that have that tattoo, and I actually have it. It's right there. It's that little rocket right there that I got. And I got years and years ago when I was me opening my own restaurant. So I always thought the promotion was really cool. I knew the guys, so I was like, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it in a restaurant setting. So put it out there, 2009, thought 20 of my friends were gonna do it, and it would fizzle out, but literally it took off. The first week somebody showed up. The second week, 2 people showed up. The third week, 2 more people showed up. And we've been doing it since then, and now we have almost 900 people that have done it since 2009. So we're approaching our 10-year anniversary of having the Melt Tattoo family is what we call them. And they get 25% off for life. They get a membership card. They get an individual number. They get a T-shirt. They get a permanent place on our website, Hall of Fame. They're VIPs and royalty when they walk in the restaurant. We invite them to all of our openings. We invite them to any national, television shows that we film at the restaurant. So, there's a lot we can do for them, but we just thank them because they're our biggest fans. They're rabid, and they go off and they're walking billboards for us.
They are.
It's really cool because a lot of them are. I've become friends with a lot of them. I see them. I meet them at the openings. I meet them in the stores. I obviously don't know them all. 900 people is hard to keep track of.
Right.
But
well, so big question now, and you have many tattoos.
I do.
Do you have a Melt tattoo?
Dun, 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 dun. The answer is no. I do not have a Melt tattoo, and a lot of people.
Why not?
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of like, "Are you kidding me? You make other people you make other people get your tattoo, but you don't have one." Well, first of all, I don't make anybody do anything. It's called free will, and they can get it if they want to. But I personally don't have the Melt tattoo because in tattoo lore, it's known that you do not get a name of something or something that's very significant to you in your life tattooed on you. Like you're not supposed to get your parents' names tattooed on them until they've passed, or your kids' names, or your dog, or something that really means a lot to you. Because to me and to a lot of people in the tattoo industry, tattoos are memory triggers. It's something that you remember from your past that you want to remember forever. So I subscribe to that philosophy, and if I was to get Melt Bar and Grill tattooed on my body, I would look at that as taboo. I'd be putting some undue harm or some bad luck, some bad juju onto that, and I certainly don't want to do that to my I consider Melt my significant other. I'm married. Mm-hmm. I love my wife, but my second love in life is my restaurant. Love it or hate it, it's there pretty much for the rest of my life.
Right. Matt, you've been very successful, so we have just a couple minutes left. 3 strategies for success. And you and I have talked about this. Number 1 is know your own personal strengths and weaknesses. Surround yourself in business and in life with people who are smarter and better than you. Mm-hmm. Number 2, take chances in business and life. Regret is not good, and you may only get one chance at something, so go for it.
Agreed.
Number 3, relationships and partnerships are more important than immediate financial gain. Business and life are a marathon, not a sprint. So you need to cultivate relationships for a lifetime. Can you weave all of those together in the little bit of time we have left?
Yes, I probably can. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I'm hoping that everybody else does. And just find better people. There's no way you want to be in life or be in business with someone exactly the same as you, because then you're going to become just very one-sided. There's 2 sides to every coin, so there's got to be 2 sides to every relationship. So surrounding yourself, especially in business, with people that are better at other things than you. I can't do everything. We've got almost 400 employees. We've got 10 locations in Ohio. I can't be everywhere at the same day. So I need to have people, better than me in doing all those things. So. And, the relationship cultivation, that's with our vendors, that's with our suppliers, that's with our staff, whether it's personally or professionally, treat them we try to treat everyone as equals. We try to everyone how we want to be treated. That's how we treat everyone. Whether it's our, like I said, our vendors, or our staff members, or even our guests. Like, you know, that's my philosophy, not only in business but in life. You know, like, I don't want to walk down the street and have to pass someone and be like, oh no, what did I do to that guy? Or how did I treat them? Or, oh, I used to buy from them, but I don't anymore. You know, it's just like a lot of people, especially in business, chase the dollar too much, I think. And, well, I'm buying this here, but I can buy it over here and I can save 4 cents. So I'm gonna leave this guy and go over here. But you know what? I've been with the same vendors now literally since day one that we've opened Melt, and I've made or saved more money by just staying on the straight and narrow path than I could just over here chasing the almighty dollar.
And it's a more enjoyable relationship for you
Oh,
and
yeah,
for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, all of my vendors, I'm good friends with all of our vendors and our salesmen, whether it's the people we deal with on a sales level or the ownership of the company. Like, they look out for us. They treat us the way that everybody should be treated. They put deals in front of us, or, hey, I've got this opportunity for you guys to buy 20 cases of this or 100 cases of this, and you can save $50 a case or whatever. You know, they're not going to offer that to everybody. They're offering that to their best customers, and it feels good that we've been with people for literally that long. You know, our salesman and our food purveyor, I've been with him since I started in the restaurant industry. So literally, he and I have been working together for over 27 years together, and I don't have any intention of changing that.
Matt, in about 10 seconds, what is your biggest thing that you would say to our audience?
Go for it. Take chances. I mean, the gourmet grilled cheese concept had never existed before I invented it. And literally half the people that I met before I opened the restaurant told me that was the stupidest idea they ever heard in their lives. But then the other 50%...
And look at the success that you are today.
The other half said, that's a great idea, go for it. So if you think it's a great idea, go for it. The worst that's going to happen is it's going to fail. The sun will rise tomorrow.
Let's leave it there, Matt. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, honored.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
There is a cartoon going around the internet today, and basically it's a good example of an affliction called common sense deficit disorder. The cartoon is of this. A nurse comes out into a waiting room at a medical facility and says, due to the fact that we can no longer announce names of patients, would the lady with the hemorrhoids please come in?